mean, the average company is going to have 3 to 5% marketing revenue if it's a retail company, right? My marketing spend is 70% of revenue, 70, not 17. So it costs many, many, many times more to sell a product than it does to make it. And that's just the world we're in.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callanan. Let's get to work. Our conversation today is with Mark Fox. He is a former space shuttle chief engineer turned founder, and now has one of the fastest growing PEMF health brands in the country. That's pulse electromagnetic frequency. It's actually fascinating. We get really honest about his position on e-commerce math and why he believes a 10 to 20x markup on cost of goods is absolute minimum when you're using paid ads to market. In their case, running up to 70% of their total revenue is being spent on paid advertising. And unless you have that kind of a 10 to 20x markup, that's not going to happen. So we talk a lot about why attribution is broken in this post iOS pixel blocking world, how to read businesses on a blended basis, bootstrapping under real constraints, stocking out air shipping versus sea shipping and tariffs and all the difficult things that come with bootstrapping consumer product companies, dealing with cash flow, cost of goods, all of it, how all that stuff has a tendency to destroy companies. That is a huge part of why companies die. Mark also talks about his playbook for growing without lighting money on fire, dealing with competitors and joint ventures, a lot of activity and conversation in and around health and his position on the medical space, particularly with respect to using PEMF to deal with, as you will see, some very significant medical issues that range from PTSD all the way through treating Alzheimer's and things like that. So it's a really interesting conversation. I don't often have the chance to get into my own nerdy rabbit hole on health related topics. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mark Fox. So, starting off, where are you from, Mark?
Cocoa Beach, Florida, which I grew up here, but I was born in San Diego, but I lived in Utah and Alabama and Tennessee and lots of different places. But I'm back actually, weirdly enough, back in the house I grew up in, which I was planning to do, but it was never out of the family. And just when my dad died in 2010, the market sucked, and I didn't want to get rid of it. And it's 2 blocks from the beach. So I'm like, I'll just bought it from my sister.
Amazing. I understand that you spent some time in the military. Did that kind of take you around?
No, actually aerospace did. So I worked on the space shuttle programs. So it's kind of funny is I'm a chemical engineer as my undergraduate, and me and my best friend's he's a nuclear physicist. And when we graduated college, we were hanging drywall for $3.50 an hour. And I'm like, okay, this sucks. This is not fun, because nobody was hiring anyone in 1983. If that to be old enough to remember, but it's So then somebody came along, and I never wanted to get into rockets at all. Just my dad was into rockets, and I've grown up here in the Space Coast. It's not what I wanted to do. But somebody goes, hey, this company's hiring out there. They won the space shuttle processing contract. So I go, okay. So I gave my resume, and they called me and they go, come in for an interview. I'm like, when? They go, now. All right, well, I kind of take a shower, right? That type of thing. I'm working drywall, and they're like, get here when you can. So I walk in, I'm waiting, I got a suit on, I'm waiting for a whole bunch of hard questions about stuff, and I don't really know a whole lot about rockets. And the guy, he hands me a trifold brochure, and this is the most malicious compliance I've ever seen in my life. He goes, we're Morton Thiokol. We make solid rocket motors, specialty chemicals, and salt, like Morton salt. It pays $12.14 an hour. I go, what am I gonna do? And he opens a manila folder with my resume stapled in it. He runs his finger down. He goes, you're an engineer, right? I go, yeah. He goes, how the hell do I know engineering shit? I'm like, what does that mean? He goes,
okay.
I go, do you want the job or not? I go, yeah. I go, when do I start? He goes, now. Go over there. And I'm like, okay. And they sat me over at a desk, and was like, so what I learned later on was it was a cost plus contract. So they had slots from the government for 80 engineers. And this guy, head of HR, was told, I don't care how dumb they are. As long as they get a heartbeat and they get an engineering degree, you hire them, we'll fire them later. They're like 16 years. So, but that's what moved me around was I worked on the solid rocket boosters after Challenger happened. Utah is where they manufactured them. So I moved to Utah to work on the redesign of the boosters. That's the first thing that started moving me around.
I too am a nerd of the sciences. My degree was molecular and cellular biology. I took a ton of physics and math and chemistry and all that stuff. And I too have, like your plastering positions out of college, have never used it outside of applying the scientific method to business. So, but I have to ask, when you got through that first, like you're basically here to fill a role, cost plus, so we don't lose our contract dollars. What was the first thing they actually had you do engineering wise?
So the solid rocket boosters were it's pretty simple, but most people don't know rockets. So explain it real quick. The solid rocket booster has the fuel in it, right? It's a solid fuel. The liquid engines, the external tank and those, they don't have any fuel until they're on the launch pad and then they're fueled hours before the flight, right? So NASA figured out, hey, if we drop one of these in the VAB, we're going to kill 20,000 people. Why don't we build some new facilities in the swamp? And we only need like 50 guys out there or 100. And if they drop it out there, you only kill 50 or 100, not the whole building. So that was the building that we were building when I got hired. The guy I was working for, I worked there for like 10 days and they reassigned him somewhere. And well, who's in charge now? I go, well, you, I guess. Nobody officially told me I was, but I just said, all right. So I guess I'm in charge. And then like 8 months later, like, who the hell is this 22-year-old kid? Why is he running it? Just left. So that was the first job I got by default is they didn't hand that off very well. So it was called the RPSF, 4-letter acronym. It was a building to be able to, the segments would come, they come in 4 pieces and they came from Utah where they're manufactured. And then we have to process them and get them off a rail car horizontally to move them vertically to stack them so you can fly the shuttle. So that was my first job that was site management, but I, quote, wasn't using my engineering degree, but and I tell everyone this, right? I can tell my great niece, I just want you to go to college and I don't care what you major in. Just, it teaches you how to think and be social, right? And present stuff, right? So that's what I keep telling people is just go do that. Like, so anyway, that was my first job to answer your question.
That's amazing. Talk about getting thrown into the fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and I'll lead into this because you said rabbit holes earlier, because this is, I get asked this all the time. Did we really land on the moon? Now I've learned from presenting so much that it's about 1% to 2% of the population thinks we never land on the moon, maybe as much as 3%. And I can tell who it is in the audience by their reaction when the question gets asked, by their body language, right? So they'll go prove it. I go, can you prove you were born? Yeah, of course I am. I'm here. That doesn't mean you're born. Well, I got a birth certificate. So what? That's a fake piece of paper. Can you prove you were born? Well, no, you can't prove we land on the moon, but here's the analogy I use. The data that I use. When I was young, same time frame, it was in the same year that I first worked there. They're like, we need a volunteer to be a trash man because the VAB has so much garbage in it that we need some. So I volunteered, right? I'm like, I'll do it. I'm trying to get recognition. So this is how old I am, dude. Had to go find microfiche. Okay. Most of your listeners don't even know what the hell that is. Had to go find microfiche, look up part numbers. Like, what is this stuff? This is the largest building in the world, Bigfoot wise. It's the largest building in the world. So there was so much ground support equipment, aluminum, copper, stands, stairs, things to hold pieces and parts that you could possibly imagine. So I spent about 3 weeks surveying this. And I came back to NASA, said, it will take me over 10 years to survey this, maybe 20. There's so much copper and aluminum and just spare parts, right? So I went to NASA. I said, instead of putting a bid out for a vendor to clean up the building, reverse the bid and have a vendor pay for the privilege to clean it up. Because they'll make so much money off the scrap aluminum copper. Adam, it took me 18 months to get that approved because NASA could never figure out how to take money from a vendor. They're like, that's not what we do. We pay vendors. I'm like, right. So I finally got that approved, took a year and a half, and I have no idea how much I think the company bid $6 million to get the contract. They probably made $150 million. because they just hauled semis for years out of that building.
Jeez.
So my point to all that, if we didn't land on the moon, who is smart enough in the 60s and 70s to build billions of dollars worth of ground support equipment for some kid to find in 1984, right? There's just no logical, rational way. That's my argument about how we had to.
It's amazing that we have to argue about that. Or that, let me rephrase that, that you have to argue about that. That's like a thing that comes up. Do they ask you if the earth is flat too? Is that part of the combo?
It often is. Okay. So the
Yeah.
Flat Earth Society, last time I checked, I don't check anymore because it makes me throw up, was 200,000 people 15 years ago. 200,000 or still believe the earth is flat. Anyway, we knew it'd go down a
Okay.
rabbit hole. We started early, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the fun. That's where all the good stuff is. So you were there at NASA, you said, for 16 years, 18 years?
I worked for Morton because I always to clarify this is I didn't work for NASA, which almost nobody does. Okay. The majority of people are contractors. NASA doesn't build anything,
Yeah.
contract stuff
True.
out to build it. Okay. So
Okay.
I worked for Morton Call for about 16 years. Yeah.
Okay. What happened when you left that? Was it opportunity based, or did they close a division, or how'd that work?
It's going to be the opposite of probably what you think. And it's interesting because I hardly ever get answered that question is I was offered a huge promotion and I knew if I took it, I would never do anything else in my life. Right. Because you get sucked in at that point. I was 32 years old. I was the youngest chief engineer on the space shuttle program at 31. So this was 32 or 33. They offered me a huge position. I'm like, man, if I take that, which I loved working on the program parts of it. And, it's very rewarding when you see a launch and all that stuff, but they're so slow to change and do things that are different. So at that point, yeah, they didn't get the answer they expected. And of course, they thought I'd accept the job. And like, I'm going to go try something else. Right. So I moved to Parker Hannifin, which makes aircraft parts, actuators and stuff, which wasn't much different than the government because
Yeah,
Boeing, the contractor, and they're almost as bureaucratic. And then if you can remember a zip drive, you're not old enough, but back in the late
I am.
1990s. Okay. So in that same city in Ogden, Utah is iOmega.
Mhm.
So it was kind of interesting. So I got hired in charge of the internet, some weird thing they never heard of, right? And call centers. I literally, like an idiot, go, "What's a call center?" I didn't even know it. I didn't realize when you called a company, it wasn't the company you were talking to. I didn't know it was call centers, right? So I ended up doing that, which that part was cool about the internet because it was the Wild West, right? Is nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody jokes about this, but ISO 9001 certification, all that stuff, right? So they come in, they go, "You need all these procedures and this, that." And I go, "We don't have any of that." So I literally wrote this on a bazooka bubble gum wrapper that said, "Procedure 1001. This is the internet and we don't have any yet." And I handed it to the inspectors and they laughed. They go, "That's not funny. Where's your procedures?" No, seriously, this is it. And my boss is over in the background going, "We're going to kill you." I was like, "No, there are no procedures. This is the internet. We're making it up. Nobody knows what they're doing. And we're just trying stuff." Right. And I said, I had to make an argument, right? Because they're going to fail us for me being a smart ass. I'm like, "Nope. ISO says you have to have a procedure and you got to follow it. It doesn't say you have to make anything good. Here's an example. I can have a company that makes light bulbs and our procedure is to make sure they never last more than 20 hours. So you buy more light bulbs. And I got a quality control system to make sure they break at 20 hours. You can still certify ISO 9000 because you have a procedure and you're following it." And they couldn't argue that. So I won that argument. We still passed, but that's what I did next and then I just went on my own, started doing creative thinking. And I never planned to get into this energy space stuff. And we can talk about how I got into that if you want to. But before we start, you talked about a bunch of failures too. My wife said, "How many companies you started in the last 10 years? I'm like, "I don't know." Well, she goes, "Go over in the corner and count them." And come back and I go, "Oh, it was 12. And what's the common denominator to all these? Why they failed? I figured that out. It was very easy. I should have figured it out sooner, but I didn't.
What was the common denominator?
You got to have a 10x markup. You have to make noise. Okay. You got to have a ton of money to make noise. The product doesn't really matter. The marketing, I'm in a thing called the Wizard Academy I've been involved with for 25 years. When people come in, they have new companies and stuff, we'd say, hey, what problem are you trying to solve? How many people have that problem? Why is your solution better than anyone else's? The standard three questions. Now the first question is, do you have a 10 to 20x markup? The answer is no, quit. Because the old school of make it for $1, wholesale for 2, retail for 4 doesn't work because Zuckerberg has all your money. It costs 8. People will, I'll just tell you what my marketing expenses are right now. I mean, the average company is going to have 3 to 5% marketing revenue if it's a retail company, right? My marketing spend is 70% of revenue. 70, not 17. So it costs many, many, many times more to sell a product than it does to make it. And that's just the world we're in. Google's not as bad as Facebook, but all of that stuff and all the, the social, all the online marketing, and we're in Sirius XM radio and a lot of other things going to be launching on TV soon too. But no, it costs a lot of money to make noise. That's the lesson. That's a long answer to what you just asked me. It costs way more than I thought it would to make noise. I was golfing with my nephew this weekend. He's got this little hand clip thing he invented to hang your glove on the golf cart while you're driving. I go, I don't even care if it's free. I don't care if it costs 1 cent to make. How are you going to market it? Don't even try until you can figure that piece out because you're just wasting your time. So yeah, that's all the other companies I had. I didn't have enough markup. And my wife her nickname is Lucy Van Pelt from the Peanuts because everything costs a nickel. She comes from the poorest. It's funny, Adam, because she comes from like the poorest family ever in Tennessee, but she's a vice president at Oracle, but she's still the cheapest person in the world. And she's like, well, you spent $100 on that and you didn't sell any yet. Quit, which I did. These other companies had enough budget to try to bootstrap this thing and get it going. So that's a long, long answer to what you asked, but and I'm mad at myself because the answer is so simple, but it took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important point, and it's one that I deal with in Pentane all the time. Literally 30 minutes ago, I got off a demo with a client who we were basically working through the same problems. And I often use the example of like, I have a friend, it's similar to your golf clip situation. I have a friend that comes to me and says, hey, I want to start a hat company. I need some advice. Okay, cool. What are you going to sell the hat for? $25. Cool. What's the hat going to cost? $15. Cool. That's not a business. Like, and it's game over. It's not even, unless you're going to sell one person 10 hats, it's not a company. That maybe it's a fun hobby if you like have time to waste, but that's not a company. So instead, working on the starting point is what are you going to acquire the customer for? And then double that because it's not going to be what you think it is, and work the margins back from that, which ends up much more in line with what you're saying in that 10x markup as a multiple of your cost of goods against revenue.
That's almost the starting gate is 10x 20,
Yeah.
but it's at 5. You can't.
Yeah.
I've proven it 12 times that you can't get there, at least
Yeah.
a small amount of budget. But yeah, so that was a super hard, and you know what? It's, it's frustrating because you get super excited about the technology, but so Roy Williams of the Wizard Academy, I'll just throw this in there because it's along those lines. It's like, I said, so Roy, if you were me talking to my company last year, I go, what would you do? He goes, 2 things: create compelling content and go find joint ventures. That's it. He goes, I wouldn't even run any Facebook, Google ads or radio. I wouldn't do any of that. Just those 2 things. He's not 100% right, but he's in the right direction. And here's an example you use, another rat hole thing. So we're sitting down with Wizard Academy. These guys all drink whiskey, scotch and stuff. It's an entrepreneurial school. It's 2 to 3 day classes. It's a nonprofit. I don't. I drink beer or wine, but these guys are sitting around and they go, hey, there's wine connoisseurs. Is there such a thing as a whiskey connoisseur? And we all like Google on our phone. The answer is no, it didn't exist. So Daniel, who's the vice chancellor, goes, okay, we're going to have a whiskey certification class. And again, we're just making stuff up to try and get new people into the academy one way or the other. He goes, there's going to be 5 levels of certification. I go, what's level 1? He goes, or I go, what's level 5? He goes, I don't even know what level 1 is yet. Right. So him and Roy's kid, they started a YouTube channel, multiple ones about reviewing whiskey. And if you go Google it right now, go to YouTube, they're going to show up number one because they have compelling content that's entertaining, period. It's hilarious. Everyone that has whiskey, all the manufacturers, distilleries send them the whiskey and want them to review it. And they go, if it sucks and we don't like it, we're going to tell everyone it sucks. And they do that sometimes. They go, never buy this. And then they get a phone call. What are you guys doing? Right. But they're hilarious. They're funny. And they've never run an ad in their life. And they're killing it. But Patreon and merch and all the other stuff that they're doing that's associated with it. So that's a different way to look at it, right? Is compelling content. And that's what Roy said. It costs a lot of money to make noise. And he's right. It does. Way more than it should.
So my last company was called Bottle Keeper. It was an e-commerce business, and we operated along that 10. I think our margin was like 90%. By the end of the company, it was closer to 85, but that was because we had expanded the product line, but we were way bigger then. We could have, at that point in time, this is like 2014, 15, was like the early heyday of paid media. When it was so inexpensive, you could spend and just build the business on a paid media revenue model. To your point, you can't do that anymore. And I think I would say that the one caveat to the Wizard Academy position, I'd be interested in your opinion on this, is that I do completely agree that compelling content is critical. Partnerships, absolutely critical. But the compelling content, adding fuel into that fire with paid ads starts to make sense when you have compelling content that is having some viral moment. How do you look at that?
Yeah. And the problem is because we're on Sirius XM right now, we're reaching 12 million people 3 times a week with the message. The ROI or ROAS on that, it's not good. Lots of Facebook campaigns we have are not good. Some are right. But then it's the halo effect or just the synergy is you can't separate it all out as I'm making noise. They see it on Facebook. They see it on Google when they search maybe, and then they hear it on the radio, vice versa in that mix. You can't separate them all out, even though it's the digital world. You can't, the synergistic effect or whatever. And so it's scary because I don't know how much I could turn one off and screw up the other stuff. Right. So yeah, there is not, and then of course, okay. And you got Facebook ad lovers on here are going to hate me for this, but Facebook lies more than anyone on their metrics. Firing pixels twice and doing weird things. You can't ever talk to a real person. You can only get a marketing person that they hire a new one every 3 weeks to send your way, right? They can't answer any of the real technical stuff of what's happening in the back end. And this is first argument I had with them. I know you guys didn't sell $80,000 because the only company did 40. I mean, a couple of years ago, it's like, why are you counting 80? So and I'm a rocket scientist. The numbers are great. The metrics, and you'll get a kick out of this. Everyone probably will. So July and August is like, so we're the fastest growing PEMF company in the world, I believe. Okay. We're growing super aggressively. At GP, I put all this data in, all our P&L, all this data. Chat GPT basically told me, hey, Mark, you don't need AI to tell you what you did wrong. In July, your revenue went up 44%. Your marketing spend went up 220. You don't need a computer to tell you what you did wrong. You spent too much on marketing and didn't get enough revenue in return. So you start turning knobs and trying different things. And how do you trim fat and make things work as best you can? I'm 64, right? So all my friends are retiring and stuff. And I'm going the wrong way. I'm going the opposite direction of just getting more and more deeper into it. It's like, but you know what? Forget the numbers and stuff from it. We get a couple hundred emails a day, maybe 80 phone calls. The amount of people that we're helping, with PTSD, people and animals and dogs, horses, that makes you keep going. I mean, I want to go to that rabbit. I'll start crying. Just people that are suicidal, then they're not. People that are getting divorces, now they're not. Right? People whose kids don't want to hang out with them, now they do. Those type of changes are, how do you put a dollar figure on that? And that's happening every day, constantly, which is, okay. So then you kind of keep going. And I don't know if I ever want to retire now because it's like, this is part of my anti-Alzheimer's plan is I got to think hard every day how not go broke, right? It's like, oh, how do I keep, my biggest fear is not being able to pay the 12 women I have in pajamas spread around the country, which is my company. There's me and the fish here and everyone else is a girl in pajamas. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
Before we go down the resonance rabbit hole, The concept of attribution, which is what you're talking about when looking in platform at like Facebook and all these things, that has been broken for so long. I'm not sure, honestly, it ever worked. Even before iPhone was blocking all the pixels and everything, which is now the case, which means they literally have next to no visibility into what's happening. It was already a disaster. So I think you're spot on with looking at it at more high level as a blended across all the channels, as opposed to trying to cherry pick what is working or not in platform reporting, because it's just garbage.
She doesn't say a whole lot when she speaks. She's got pretty short sentences. She goes, "Number one, did your bank account go up or down last month?" That's it, right? That is the top thing to look at. Did it go up or
Yeah.
down? And if it
Yeah.
went down, so the answer is I go, it went down. She goes, why'd it go down? Well, I had to pay a boatload in quarterly taxes. Okay. If you didn't pay the taxes, would it have gone up? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. And she walks out of the room.
Yeah.
That is the metric, right? From a financial point of view, is
At
your
the end
bank
of the
account
day,
or
at the
down,
end of the day. Yeah.
period. That's it. And then you can start looking more granular, but that is the litmus test, right?
100% agree. So how did you find yourself in, we're looking through your sort of history and transition from space and rockets to call centers and the early internet into Resona Health. How did that happen?
My dog. So
Okay.
my dog was 27 years ago. She couldn't come up the stairs and we took her to the vet. She had severe arthritis in her spine, and not my veterinarian, but one that's actually from the Wizard Academy, a very good friend of mine, very forward thinking. His name's Oz Jackson. He's like, hey, there's this magic technology machine that uses energy and frequencies and it can reverse arthritis. I go, no, it can't. Yeah, it can. Okay, well, it's my dog. I'm going to go look into this. That's how I got into it. So I didn't believe it. I'm skeptical. I still am. Been looking at this for 27 years, but there's enough data to say it works. Not 100%, but it works a lot. So it's like, what really got me into designing products was I saw what it could do for initially for PTSD, and the huge success rate with PTSD where nothing else was working. And the 44 suicides we have a day in this country for military. So 22 military vets, 15 first responders, 5 medical workers, 2 active duty. That's not counting all the civilians. That is absolutely sickening, disgusting, and criminal that that's how they're treated. And we have a solution for it, but they're expensive machines being held hostage in clinical environments at the time, which was only in a few different states, right? You had to drive across country to get to one. So that's why I dove into this. Has got to be a way to make something affordable. And naively, like everything else, I walked in there and said, this is going to be easy. Just take a little coil and a battery. Yeah, and that didn't work, right? All the engineers that helped me try and build it did it from an engineering point of view. It didn't work. In the end, what it actually is, I won't get too deep into it, but it's a music player. It just doesn't have a speaker. So all the protocols are actually MP3 files that I wrote on a music synthesizer. So now I'm not a musician. I wish I could play something. By the way, at the Wizard Academy, I am the only person that can't play an instrument. They pick on me every time I go. But anyway, so it's like, no, but I could type on a music synthesizer and write the program. So it's a music player without speakers. It's just putting energy through a coil. So yeah, this is a very personal story, but I'll just share. You can edit it out if you want to. So I'm 4 days away from cutting money for mold tooling, right? Which is incredibly expensive. 4 days. Our financial advisor I known for 25 years embezzled us, and hung himself the same day he got caught.
Goodness.
So now I'm like, he stole $40 million, some from his family. But I'm like, now what? And I actually said that to Roy Williams. I said, what would you do? He goes, I'd go back to aerospace because it costs too much money to make noise, what we've just been talking about. He goes, you got to go find a bunch of money you don't have, all that stuff. And I'm like, 2 weeks later, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was a week later, my wife goes, just spend the money and go do it because you'll be impossible. You spend that much time doing all the development and testing it, clinical trials and all that stuff on the mock-ups. So it almost never happened because of that. And I had to take a financial attitude, nowhere even close to it yet, but I'm like, screw him. I'm going to make what he stole from me rounding error. And that's just what I put in my head is, no, I'm not going to let him ruin my life. he ruined a bunch of people's lives, and he was supposed to be a friend of mine. I mean, you would never know that typical thing you can't imagine. So won't go too dark there, but that was a weird thing. Like it almost never happened because of that.
How did you, so sort of developed that end state mentality of I'm going to make this a rounding error and use that as fuel. What was your next step? Do you just executed the tooling and got product
Got product and
basically?
I hadn't really ran any Facebook ads in my life or Google ads. And then all the stuff we just talked about, like, what, why is this hard? How do you, surely you can measure this stuff, but it's just trying to bootstrap it, right? Without, okay. I had to borrow an X amount of money from her because Mark didn't have any and he hadn't had a real job for 20 years, right? I need to pay the bank back. So that was my goal, is how do I do this without borrowing money from her or anybody else? And just started out slow and putting right? But just elbow grease into it and staring at your bank account every month going, am I going to go broke? How do I even pay for the next inventory? No, all that stuff, right? Is I got to go buy inventory, but I don't have the money to do that. So how much can I buy? Well, I got to buy less quantity, so it costs more. And then in the end, though, the cost of the product is not the problem. As we already discussed, it's the expense of the marketing to make noise. So that's what happened next.
With your first product, what's the time frame on when you got that first product? If you're an early stage e-commerce brand doing anywhere from startup to 5 million a year in revenue, Pentane was built for you. It can help you operate more profitably. Just launched is a pulse check report. This shows you what's working, what's not working, and exactly what to do within your business. And this is not just general advice. It is very specific. Like raise your prices by 4.6% to get to break even, or you need to hit a 2.34 return on ad spend in order to remain profitable with your marketing. It's far better than a report you'd get from an outsourced CFO that would cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And right now it is totally free. Head to pentane.com/pulse check to learn more.
Well, like what I did is when I figured out it was an MP3 player, I took an existing Bluetooth speaker that looks like a cassette tape that you would buy as a promotional gift that you put in a bag or something. So I didn't have to build that mold tooling, and I just took the speaker out and put a coil in and started playing with that with chips. So I used existing tooling in another product. So that's how I cheated to get all the because I had to start off with, does any of this even work? How do I go spend money on it? Does it work therapeutically? So I had to go build, I think it was 1,000 devices that Bluetooth connect. What I found, so it worked. The good news is it worked therapeutically. The bad news is people struggle with Bluetooth and keeping it. And because it's an audio file, if you can imagine when you got a ding on your text or somebody called while you're listening, right, it would stop the program and they couldn't see that. So I had to kill the whole Bluetooth part of it to come up with the next product. So that was the next step, was dramatically simplify this, give it a screen so they can see what it is, make it alphabetical, make it look intentionally like an old iPod just for familiarity. And most people do not know this, and you got to be super old like me to even know this, but the bars on there for the frequencies when you show it running are the same colors on a Star Trek tricorder. Consciously, I was hoping people would look at that and go, okay, it has something to do with, it is advanced like Star Trek, right? That was the next step. And then just bootstrapping it, right? So we made money a little bit, like a nickel, right? The first year, and then just had to keep buying inventory, and we're still doing it, right? Trying to keep up. I've never told anyone this. We have almost run out of inventory 3 times. We've been within 1 day of running out of inventory, but we haven't, literally 3 times. It's like, so you can't make some of this stuff up. Adam is like, the 2 things that are killing me is Zuckerberg and Trump. Trump's killing me with the tariffs. And then to put on top of that, apparently there's a typhoon somewhere between here and China. So the boat has to go around the storm. So the stuff showed up 2 weeks late. That happened for this product today.
Yeah.
I'm talking 15 minutes ago, we had product show up. And then the sad part is the manufacturer cannot tell me what the product costs delivered till the day we ship it. And their PI is only good for 24 hours because of Trump's tariffs. Literally. They send me the invoice, and if I don't pay it that day, They got to send one the next day. The good for 30 days bit, it's gone. It's 24 hours now because of tariffs. I literally don't know what the thing cost me till the day I buy it and it gets on them. It's crazy.
That is crazy. We never had, let me rephrase that. We often had the inventory issues. We ran out of product at Bottle Keeper probably 8 times in the first 2 years, which is a great and terrible problem. Granted, we weren't selling something that was saving people's lives. We were selling like fancy beer koozies. But the challenges around depending on inbound shipping, I can remember multiple times where to your point, something would happen on the water where literally a ship would go down, or they'd have to reroute it through the Panama Canal, or the port. This is nothing against unions and union workers. I would say something about this, everybody would freak out. Like the port of LA would shut down. And so our product would just be sitting in containers on the ground for a month, just sitting there, not have it. Like,
And
man, it was so hard.
Ship it air versus sea. Air costs twice as much, gets here twice as
Oh,
fast. But literally, you got to
I
look
think
at
it was
the
like 5
inventory.
times as much.
For me, it's twice as much. Twice what sea is. Now you have to look at that every time and go, how much inventory we got today, shipping today, ship it air or boat. And we're 50-50, depending on inventory, which product it is. So
we did all sorts of aerobatics around shipping this amount by air to try to reduce it as much as possible, and the rest by sea, and trying to thread the needle, which again, then it would run into a port lockup. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, that these are all the realities of operating companies, operating bootstrapped companies where you don't have the gobs and gobs of cash to just go and sit on things. But the other side to that, Mark, is that building under constraints builds a significantly more durable business. And you see the downside of companies that go and raise a bunch of money and make a bunch of really, really stupid decisions just because they have the money. They don't have to think about and solve problems like we had to at Bottle Keeper and like you are, where you created a product out of something that already existed because there was a constraint there. That's incredible.
yeah, that in the back of my head, right, is the number one reason that small businesses go out of business is cash flow. That's the number one reason. So that is as we've already talked about, that's a daily. I'm afraid just did it right for this call. Look at QuickBooks because we update it every Monday. Okay, she updated it yesterday. It's more than I thought. Okay, so I don't ever want to be surprised, but it's like trying to, that never happens at the end of the month that suddenly the costs are a little bit less than I was forecasting. It's never.
It's funny how that works, right? No, it's a one-way street. Always.
Always a one-way street. It's like the accountant. I'm like, where'd that other 30,000 come from? She goes, up here. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't there yesterday. Well, it didn't clear till then. It's just a constant thing. So you got to put that buffer in there because that's going to happen to you.
So will you explain, we can start high level and go into the scientific rabbit holes as needed, but will you explain to the listener what the product that you make does and who it is for?
Yeah. So I'd like to explain it this way at a higher level to keep it simple is nothing in the world happens without an energy exchange. So you don't brush your teeth, you don't drive your car, you don't eat food, you don't breathe oxygen, you don't fall down and hurt yourself. None of that. Everything is, you don't make s'mores on a campfire, you don't roast hot dogs. So everything in the world is an energy exchange. Nothing happens, without energy exchange. Now, in this energy therapy field, energy could be transferred to the body a number of ways, and we won't get the ninth dimension and weird stuff. We'll start with normal stuff. Electrical current, like a TENS unit, most people are familiar with that. I'm going to put pads on me. It's going to put a lot of energy into my body. It makes muscles contract. PEMF, pulse electromagnetic fields, is a magnetic field. Light, vibration, or sound, right? So everyone knows chanting, humming, meditation sounds, all that. So energy can be transferred to the body any of those ways. I chose PEMF because it's the most convenient for therapy on the go and that you forget it's even in your pocket. You don't have to have wires on you, that kind of thing. I don't have to sit in front of a light necessarily, right? So that's the benefit there. Every doctor gets angry at me when I say this, but when we get into mechanism action, get into that fight, I'm right, they're wrong, they just won't listen to me. I go, you don't know how aspirin works. You have a theory about it, but you've never proven it, ever, or any drug ever. You have not proven. You haven't seen it on a microscope how it actually works. You have theories about the mechanism of action. So get off your horse and soapbox about that because you guys are delusional if you think you do. Now, What do we know about this PMF and energy therapy? We know, and everyone will agree, all the doctors will agree, the cells in your body have an electrical charge like a car battery. When that voltage gets too low, you can get sick. What that means is it's actually the voltage at the membrane of the cell. If your voltage is low, nutrients can't get in the cell and waste products cannot get out efficiently. This increases the voltage on your cells. That's been proven. ATP, which is the main fuel that your cells use, adenosine triphosphate, it's been shown to increase ATP up to 500%. So it's recharging your cells' batteries. It's increasing the food supply for the cells so your cells and your body can do what it does best, heal itself. That part nobody will argue with for the most part. That's it at a high level, how it's working. Specific frequency, and everyone goes, what frequency does it run? It doesn't. It runs 2 frequencies at a time that change every 1 to 4 minutes. So picture frequency A is kind of like, where is it? And B is what's wrong with it. Okay. But all the protocols are songs. They're literally, picture a chord on a guitar, the 2 frequencies is the chord. The protocol is an entire song. So like PTSD is the most complex one. It has 76 different frequency pairs. Now, where did the frequencies come from? Nobody knows. So what happened is there's a ton of, so the human body, right, it's mechanical, electrical, and chemical. Okay. You can't do anything without looking at all 3, but we do anyway, because we got rid of the electrical part. Why? Because of Rockefeller and Carnegie. Okay. So there's a ton of electrical research, therapeutic research, until those 2 came along. Rockefeller figured out, hey, I own all the oil in the world, or Standard Oil, and we figured out how to make drugs out of oil. And Carnegie and me own the whole medical industry and all the funding to universities and basically licenses, the equivalent of the AMA at the time. So they put out a mandate. If you're not doing drugs or surgery, we're pulling your funding and you're pulling your licenses and stuff. So that's why it all disappeared in the US. So nobody really knows where a lot of this frequency stuff came from. I mean, Tesla was working on it. There are some publications and stuff. Russia and other guys have tons more than we do because they didn't quit. But it's literally trial and error. And the analogy I use back to songs, you got kids in a garage, their garage band, right? They threw in a trumpet, threw in a cowbell, took out a horn because it didn't work. And that's where these protocols come from, is trial and error. 8,000 practitioners over 35 years are most of the ones I've used. A lot of them, not a lot of them, more and more every day are ones I came up with because of customers. Example, after 100 people with Lyme disease ask you, what do you have for Lyme? And I go, nothing. You go come up with something and develop it, right? So I found a doctor did research on frequency with Lyme, and he said 1 to 4 hertz will kill it. But be careful. It has a Hertzheimer reaction. Lyme is a very clever little bacteria thing, and it's going to spit poison when you kill it. It's fighting back, and people are going to get sick. So the first study we did, Adam, was a success and a complete failure. Complete success because 100% of the people got sick. 100% of them quit because they got sick. Okay, shit, that didn't work. So we need a different plan. So let's try the power level at 5. See if you can kill it. Then run the liver protocol to clean the toxins out of your body. Run vagus nerve to reset your body. Rinse and repeat until you can get the amperage, the current higher and higher. And that's what we're doing right now. That seems to be working. So there's a lot of experimentation, stuff like that. We could go down the weirdest rabbit holes in the world. People have called me and says, I need you to go make something that does this. And I'm like, why? Mark only has so many hours in the day. She will probably call while we're on this call, because she calls me once a week and I haven't got anything in about a week now. That is why haven't you fixed this yet, Mark? And it has to do with nonverbal kids and autism. And we can go down that rabbit hole if you want to, but it's one study this doctor's begging me to go do that I got to figure out how. Perfect example. See this device right here? Yeah, I'm going to say the A word, Alzheimer's. Okay. It's going to work. I need $100,000 to prove it. So the FDA doesn't come murder me, right? I have the best doctor in the country to go run this study. Mark doesn't have the $100,000 to run it right now. So this is frustrating because I got 250 of those coming day after tomorrow to my doorstep. I got to figure out how to go fund that. right? Because I can't bootstrap that one right now. So there's things like that. It's like priorities. We have several different products. That one, I would love to go do the study, prove it works. If you have, and every one of your listeners are going to know some in their family, they're going to know somebody that does. It's almost like cancer, right? Somebody knows somebody, or you've been affected by it somehow, right? As a friend or whatever. Alzheimer's is the most horrible thing in the world. It ruins everyone's, right? You got to have 50, 60-year-old adults quitting their jobs to take care of their parents, right? They don't want to put them in homes and doing all that stuff. It's awful. That's why I really, really want to go show this works. I'm confident it will. It's the one time I got to school an MIT professor, because if your listeners, they don't know this, go Google it, MIT 40 hertz. They accidentally found how to reverse plaque in the brain with 40 hertz flickering light. Now, I've talked to the guy that ran the study and I told him what he was doing wrong. He didn't believe me. So we've had a few conversations on that. It's like, what frequencies do you run? I go 1 to 1,000 hertz. He goes, we can't see anything above 60 hertz. I'm like, I know that. He goes, well, how does it work? I go, well, first of all, let's back up. You didn't tape the rat's eyes open walking around in a box. So how did the energy get in his body? He goes, we never figured that out. You never figured that out. So I'm telling this story at the Wizard Academy to a friend of mine, Dr. Lori Bard. She's like the top pediatric radiologist in the country. And she's listening to this story I'm telling right now. And she goes, well, Mark, they figured out about 20, 25 years ago that your skin has light receptors. It has rods and cones just like your eye, basically. I'm like, that's not true. So I went down that rabbit hole, which it is true. I went back to the MIT guy and go, this is how the light's getting into the body without them looking at it. He goes, none of that's true. So I gave him all the studies. At a third call, and he goes, holy crap, I didn't know any of that. So I was like, cool. I taught an MIT professor or something. It's like, yes,
Amazing.
all this
Yeah.
new stuff that you don't know, right? Is I can tell you you go study it.
Yeah. I always have a hard time with when you get into talking with people that give absolutes as if there is no other potential outside of that, because I do really believe, and I'm 43 and continue to prove this out. The more that you know, the more that you realize you don't know. And the more that you spend time learning and educating yourself, it's like your aperture for possibility opens up so dramatically.
But
And
I'm gonna steal that term from you, because that's absolutely perfectly right. Right. So so my number one goal, honestly, is to manage my own stress. Literally. The best thing I've ever done, a year ago, I hired a woman to answer Facebook idiots that are just haters, absolute haters. Adam, I've had multiple death threats, multiple death threats. One guy gave me his address in New York, said, here's my address, please come here so I can kill you. It's like, so I wrote an article called Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire to try and argue with these idiots that said, okay, let's look at the top scams of all time. Antibiotics, DNA sequencing, CRISPR, MRIs, radio waves, right? Television, everything. So I go list all of these technology advancements that are impossible, 100% impossible until they weren't.
uh
An MRI is the most amazing, in my opinion, the most amazing invention from human beings by far. There's nothing that can touch. It's so much magic that can't possibly be real, but we do 1 million of them a year. And we hold up a photograph, go, yeah, okay, your liver looks like this, blah, blah, your heart. How did you get that picture? The amount of magic that goes on in an MRI, if you want me to, I can explain it in 45 seconds.
Well, I want to give you my recollection of it, and then I want you to correct it.
Okay.
So MRI is based on, originally was NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, which is looking at hydrogen atoms per molecule in arrangement in an array, and then is somehow translated into a magical image.
Close, but it's way more magic than that. So
Okay.
the protons having a north and a south pole like the Earth, and are tilted, and it's random. Okay. So you got trillions and trillions and trillions of them are random. You put somebody in the tube, you hit them with 50,000 Gauss. This one's 9. Okay. That's the energy level. It makes all of the protons line up like a laser, right? Like a laser. And your body starts this laser harmony energy thing. Then you literally take AM and FM radio. I'm not making that up. And you dial in AM or FM to a specific frequency to see what you want to see in the picture. So I don't remember the number, so don't quote me on the number. Say it's 107.3 hertz, right? FM, right? Megahertz, excuse me. That's what I want for liver. So you just turn the knob and you hit them with the radio waves. The magic hasn't even happened yet. Then you turn everything off and your molecules, they all go back to randomness and your body goes, ah, and releases a ton of energy, which you capture on a Fourier transform machine to make a photograph.
Yeah, that's magic.
It's all magic. You can't turn protons into lasers and make your body do this and hit it with radio stuff and then go bam and turn it on. That's what the clicking and stuff is. It's turning on and off. It's going on. A whole system I just described is turning on and off to build the image. Just start with one of those. How did the energy go into this? What? How did it go into a photograph that's crystal clear, by the way? All that is magic. So
It's amazing.
it's complete. It's all a scam and everything until it's not. Okay. So there's a comedian, Rich Hall, in the 70s on TV had a thing called sniglets. They're words that aren't in the dictionary, but should be. And one of them was boson. Okay. It's an invisible gas that surrounds people that stops new ideas from getting in. One last comment to that. I used to teach at Los Alamos National Labs. Okay. Teach creative thinking, smartest nuclear physicist in the world. I'm a stupid chemical engineer. They're going to murder me. So I walk in, I don't make eye contact with anyone in the room. None. Go to my first slide and it shows a history of physics. Okay. This year, you guys were completely wrong. Here, you're way wrong. This one, not too much. But the next one, it was the opposite of what everybody said. So I spend 12 minutes going through the history of physics of how completely wrong they are. And I still haven't made eye contact. Then I turn around. Based on that, and you guys are pretty smart, there's at least a 99% probability that whatever you did your doctor's thesis on is a crap and worthless. And they're all like slouched in their chairs. And the reason I'm doing that is trying to tenderize their brain so they'll shut up and listen to me teach about creative thinking for business. Because they already have their mind made up and they're the smartest guys in the world. And it works. Because they can't argue, you're wrong. What makes you think you're not wrong now? Right? Your aperture thing. Exactly. Tenderizing the brain to open their aperture. I'm going to put that in our pack.
I'm happy to contribute. So you mentioned hiring somebody to, your stress relief is hiring somebody to help deal with Facebook stuff. What are some other things, either practices that you have or things that you do, even if it's frankly using your own products to help sort of deal with, the wild ups and downs that we have as entrepreneurs and operators?
Yeah. One thing personally that I use the device for the most is sleep, and sleep from the standpoint of my whole life, I've had horrible dreams. It's always somebody chasing me or weapons and then get stabbed or shot. We'll see what kind of sense of humor your listeners have. When I run on sleep, I get Halle Berry, right? It's
That's much happier.
weapon systems and stuff for the most
Yeah.
part. So that, and then, I can measure them. Our new watch that came out last week, right? Is I'm measuring the amount of REM I'm getting. People will probably throw up to see how much sleep I get because it's a lot, right? So it helps me a lot with sleep. Heart rate variability, I didn't even know what that was 5 years ago. We've been studying it so much. It's so important for so many different things. Mine was around 20 to 30 million. And people that don't know, is higher the better for resiliency and health. Mine's around 20 to 30 seconds for a guy my age. 40 would be good. I'm at 110 now from running my vagus nerve protocols. This pendant is the second product we came out with that just does nothing but vagus nerve. I made this as easy as you possibly could. You turn the on button. That's all it's got. Is an on and off button. You just wear it like a necklace, like a piece of jewelry. Yeah, it's made a big difference in my heart rate variability. And we ran a clinical trial on it. And nobody's going to believe this after we just said that, but we had a 100% success rate with some metrics coming down. The average heart rate variability went up about 48% on one session, one hour session. So we're still running the data to show what's the cumulative effect after we're using it for 2 to 3.
And for the listener, your heart rate, I'm going to say this so you can then correct me and make it a much more succinct statement. Heart rate variability is basically your parasympathetic nervous system response to being recovered or being ready for action.
It's a hug for your fight or flight system.
There
Okay.
you go.
Instead
See,
of
that was way better. That was far more succinct. That was awesome.
That's it. Okay. That's what it is. Instead of driving your car with the gas full power and the brake at the same time, it's just a hug for that system to keep it in check and balance.
Yeah. And that's because the more evenly spaced your heart rate beats are, the less prepared you are for that. It's actually supposed to be variable. You're supposed to have variability within your heartbeats.
It's not intuitive, right? Because people think
Yeah.
heart rate, they want it to come down. You do, but you want your heart rate variability to go up. Every day, the industry, the world's finding it's the only, not the only, it's the main thing in your body, your body, a dog's body, a horse, and a giraffe. Okay. They all got one. Okay. It's what's the super highway that your brain communicates with the organs and the organs communicate with the brain. It's a two-way highway. And if you get that thing tuned correctly, it does. There's so much research right now tied to gut issues. So all these things that people are fighting, and that's not that's not what causing it. It's like your vagus nerve is screwed up, right? So one of my partners, awesome, Dr. Pedram Sonjay, he did an entire docu-series on the gut connection. And me and him collaborate now, and he's using all my devices. His audience is using them, getting unbelievable results. He's my best, back to joint ventures. He's my best joint venture guy right now. Okay. And I've known him for 5 months, 4 months, and he's killing it, right? Because he's got the respect out there. Another cool thing is like, so we have it for dogs too. And the reason I built, here's R&D stands for research and development, but also stands for rob and duplicate. So this is where I stole this one from. I'm watching to a TED presentation. Somebody's talking about the vagus nerve because I don't know much about it. It's a 10th cranial nerve, comes down to the brain. It comes down both sides of your neck, which is closest to skin there. And that's why when Travago and those guys are putting 15 bolts in your neck, because it's closest there, but it clusters around your heart and then goes to the rest of the organs. I go, clusters around your heart. Why can't I put a necklace around your heart? That's why I invented this. Like now I don't have to put electrical shock in your neck. I can put a pendant around your heart. The vest that we have for dogs, his name's Dr. Tom. He's in Myrtle Beach. He discovered our stuff 3 months ago. And he said, Mark, I have every PEMF machine there is. Yours is the absolute best. I think it's because it's over the heart. So I think you're on it. Don't move it. I think you're onto that. You're tapping into it better than anyone else. So I'm going up a couple of weeks ago, meet him. Never met him in person. He's in Myrtle Beach. It's an excuse to go golf for a day. Okay.
Perfect.
I go hang out with him. But yeah, so we have these things for dogs. Cats, it's hard to put them on cats, but all animals will go lay on it anyway. If it's the right frequency, if they don't like it, they will go away from it. It means you misdiagnosed whatever's wrong with your animal. And it's this part of it. Like if I go on man on the street and I go, hey, do you know what a PEMF machine is? 1 out of 15 or 1 out of 20 is going to say yes. They know what a beamer mat is from a chiropractor or a wellness spa or something. In the horse world, Adam, it's 100% of the people. 100% know what MagnaWave is. They've had the horse treated with it, or the horse in the stall next to them, the vets come out and treated them. So they know what that technology is. From a marketing perspective, my avatar is a 52-year-old cowgirl that's going to fight me because there's no way a 2.4 ounce little thing's going to do something on a 1,000-pound animal. You want to bet? And it's working. So we have basically, got one right here, cell phone holder with a 30-inch elastic strap goes around what's on the horse's neck, right? And actually, I'm making an argument that a horse is more energy sensitive than a human being, even though he's a 1,000-pound animal because of evolution, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's working very well with horses.
Very cool, Mark.
Thank you. It is the funnest job I've ever had. I'm not making.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a self-proclaimed nerd, I can spend so much time, endless amounts of time going down these highly curious rabbit holes. Where do you want people to find you, to find your company? Where are you making noise?
Yeah. So Resona, RESONA.health is short for resonance. So Resona.health. They go find information there. I think what I thought about it for this call too is the last book I wrote is called What on Earth Are We Doing to Our Health? It's on there for like $1 or whatever. I'm gonna just give you a link that you put in the notes and then just download the PDF for free. But that talks about everything that we've been not everything, but kind of the background, some of the questions you already asked me, but it'll recap that and gives them some examples and they can dive into it a little more. just go educate yourself on it. In the end, it won't work for everybody. I can tell you on most of our protocols, it's over 90% on PTSD. We have 98% success rate. That's unheard of for any intervention. And it's statistically proven at that level. You'll try it. If it doesn't work for you, I don't want anyone in the world to have one and pay for it. If it didn't work, send it back and give me your money back. That's simple.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate your time. It's not every day that I get to have a conversation with a rocket scientist and a fellow health
Hey,
biology nerd. So that's great. I deeply appreciate the time.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fun. It was great.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, see you.
A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.